Hey, what's going on, everyone? It's David Palmer, Leo King. We are here live for After Dark, the spiritual talk show here on highvibe.tv. Make sure you check out highvibe.tv. The Roku app just launched. We got Roku, we got iOS, we got Apple TV, and Android now. And, of course, the mobile web or the web page. That's where you're going to sign up anyway. So check out highvibe.tv, and then whatever device you're on, you can always link to that app by supporting and getting a subscription to all the exclusive content on there or on the school. You can definitely help by keeping these shows free to you, to also watch all the free content on the app, too. It's really cool. And tonight, for tonight's show and the craziness, we've got the one and only Sarah Paasch in the house and Dylan, the Spirit Advisor.
What's up, guys?
We are in a very weird, nebulous space, I feel, in life right now.
Oh, hell yeah.
Literally in the void.
Yeah, speaking of void, there's like non-stop void of course moons this week in the middle of mayhems. So I think maybe we get little breaks, thank God. But maybe also at the same time, for some people, there's so much Neptune energy that could be almost like really feeling a little off, you know?
Yeah, actually, because we just had one yesterday. Wasn't that yesterday?
Yeah.
Time is so weird right now.
Yes, in Libra.
Yeah, okay, so yesterday, and I felt that like really dramatically. And so, I mean, I don't know, we could feel, I think it could go either way, but I think it could also feel like so out of, like the void could feel so vivid that it's really disorienting in that sense. But the good thing about void of course moon is it's always temporary. So it's like, you know, it passed.
I like Void of Course Moon. I feel like because this is such a change-making month and there's such a like redirect and re-editing energy, like at the beginning of a month, a week of Void of Course Moon is like, this is where new ideas can come in. This is where the new visions can come in. This is where, like, if you have been stuck in how you see yourself in your life and you can't think of any other way that it could possibly be, this might be a week where you could have that thing drop in and be like, oh, that's where I could go. That's what I could do. That could work.
I think if you procrastinate something, though, and then the void of course moon comes,
Yeah.
not fun. When you have to do something in the middle of that.
Oh, yeah.
Yes. Yeah, I think that is really important because it's also the energy right now feels like it's not super clear, but it's still active. Like we're still in Virgo season, and all these trines to Saturn, getting ready for Saturn to go to direct is like, we need to be moving forward. We need to be taking some kind of step, like getting our things done, but while also holding space for the fact that there's so much weird space happening. Like there's like probably more naps happening, I feel like, for people than normal.
Or wanting naps, and with Sun and Mars kind of like, no.
Yeah.
No, bam. Tonight I was calling it the war room with Mercury, Sun, and Mars on top of each other. Like, we got to figure out this and this problem and this issue, and we got to do it now, you know? We talked a lot about that in the last show, but now they're all on top of each other, but now Mars is the loser in the back. He doesn't like to be in the back. He's always been up front for most of this whole time, through this whole entire summer and everything. He was leading the pack. Now he's in the back now this week. But I was like, this is like good. Like, let all the energy kind of go and kind of be a little bit of a follower, not a follower, but like follow this energy a little bit instead of trying to like push yourself through.
Yeah, totally. I felt myself, I can feel it so distinctly right now, like getting ahead, trying to get ahead of myself or trying to get ahead of the energy, like trying to rush it. Yeah. Mars trying to lead the energy is like not working right now. And it's like, take a break. Because like you're being led, and I have like the funniest visual of Mercury right now. Like it's so, I think the astrology is so poetic, but I have this image of Mercury the messenger just like out of breath, like sprinting to catch up with everyone, because when he went into shadow pre-eclipse season, right? So now he's like out of shadow, he's coming to meet up the sun today. He's got the message all the way from the depths of the retrograde, and he's like, wait, I have this message. And he's like getting to each one, and then he's like, read it, hurry, I gotta get Venus, like before she gets out of here. And it's like all before they leave Virgo.
And that Mercury has to go through hell and back, because it's going to go through Neptune and Jupiter square, which they're all in dignity. So Mercury's gonna have to deal with this like I don't want to say nonsense, but a Mercury and Virgo would be like, this is nonsense, Neptune, and then Jupiter, like, you make no sense to me logically at all. Like, you know, like the message is almost like passed off, and then trying to catch Venus is like, oh wait, I gotta deal with all these. It's kind of like a weird like fantasy story, and like through the weird like forest that's gonna have like the fire dragons and all this weird stuff. Like, oh my gosh,
You're so telepathic, because I was like, you're literally naming the myth that I was just thinking in my head from.
Which one? Princess Bride?
No, it's from Women Who Run with the Wolves. The very last myth is about the handless maiden, and it's about it's about her and the soulmate. But she has to go through these trials where the messenger, the devil, comes through the messenger and tries to like mix up the message between her and I think the prince. I don't want to like butcher it, but she trusts her love enough to like. And then they're like grandmother. There's so much mythology in that, but it's there's trickster energy. So it's like knowing that there's trickster energy, and how beautiful that Mercury has to go through that before getting to Venus.
Same story in Princess Bride, like, right? Like his great love that gets taken away from him, you know, like because he has to go out, I think it was to war, and he becomes a pirate, remember? And then then the king marries his girlfriend that he always had, his great love, and then he goes to steal her back. He gets kidnapped, yeah. And then
Wow.
Andre the Giant.
I don't know.
Princess Bride.
Sorry. I know.
I've seen it once.
The millennials. So anyway, but yeah, it's good. What are you thinking, Dylan? Like, what are we in any different gates now with anything? Are we in some?
We've been in the ego center all week. This leading Virgo energy is in an opposition, obviously, with Pisces Earth. So when we look at a human design transit, we're looking at the sun and the earth. And this particular opposition forms a channel between the emotions and the will. So this is an insane transit for people because 80% of people have undefined will. They don't have this natural sense of their self-worth. So they're getting pumped up this week, or have been getting pumped up this week. And then 50% of people don't have a defined sense, a defined set emotional wave. So people are getting pumped up emotionally at the same time. And it's in this channel of community, which is all about who I am and who you are, and how we're either agreeing on stuff and bargaining to work together, or working against each other, or you're not in my tribe, so I'm angry at you, or I'm going to prove myself to my tribe by putting you down. It's like a lot of this shifting tribal self-worth stuff that's coming up, and it has to do with family and our relationship as individuals to our families. It's deep, and it's tribal, and it's intense, because it's really, most people are feeling this in a way where they're amplifying this energy. They're not just, it's not just trickling through, they're absorbing it and amplifying it. So there's these overblown expressions of will. There are these overblown emotional reactions to things. Everything feels super sensitive and super maybe even like attacking to the identity. And so people are just doing weird stuff. And I know I've noticed it just in life and the ambient world. But, the solar plexus is where we generate the emotions. And this gate 40, which is in the will center, is actually the gate of the stomach. So I think this is a great time to be cleaning out your digestive system, because as we all know, the gut has a lot to do with your emotional state. And if that's healthy, then we're going to be feeling clear. This is a month where we've got to feel clear. We've got to be pure in where we're coming from and our intention and our motivation. So I think, if you haven't been doing that, and you've maybe been amping up on more caffeine because you've been feeling that driving willpower, or you've just been kind of using substances to numb yourself because you're feeling more emotion or heightened emotion this week, that's not the recipe for success. That's the recipe for separation and darkness right now. So even though it's not necessarily astrological, I really think it's a great time to clear out that gut so we can be clear up here.
Well, there's a lot of toxicity around this week with Neptune and Jupiter that are really getting tight in this square, and a lot of Virgo, right? So this is a major T-square, and there's a lot of Jupiter. Jupiter's the center point, really, of this whole week, because everything's in opposition with Neptune, but it's all looking at Jupiter and Sag. And I feel that, yeah, there's over excess of a lot of things, or under excess too. Like some people are like deflated. Like, I can't get through this, or I can't solve this, or I can't.
Right.
I'm
not going to make it. Yeah.
I can't win.
Tap
Yeah.
out. You know, because I think Neptune adds that even more. It's like a boxing match a little bit with Mars and Virgo, and you've got all your moves. And if you don't have your cleaned out energy, and you like, I don't know, maybe you cheated by using some illegal substance like in the game, so you're going to lose. And then not only do you feel deflated, but Neptune kind of comes in with the last blow, like kind of like, oh my gosh, I'm not in alignment with my real self, or I don't know, man. It's a lot of challenge, but I think there's so much greatness in all this. I think there's so much that's revealing of the path in which that really is I called it Alice in Wonderland today, but I said instead of Alice, it's like the Virgin Mary going through there.
Yeah.
And it's almost like, no, I can't eat that. Like, but you need to eat that too to get to the door. Like I was saying today a lot with Virgo, and I think with Jupiter, because even though there's a lot of Virgo, the only planet that's in dignity that's going to fight against all the dignity energy is Mercury. But everything else in Virgo is not that strong there compared to everything else that's going to hit. So there's change in Virgo and mutability and mutable earth. So nothing really is set in this life, you know? Like it's almost like we have to kind of be a flexible element through this, while also be discerning with Saturn as far as like, it's almost like Saturn's giving a go ahead, like, yeah, go explore, but don't go too far. Like don't, you know, like stay in a rhythm, because Saturn meets with everything and then it's right to Jupiter and then it's to Neptune. So that's usually like the opposite of what you'd want to see. I'd almost want to go through Jupiter and Neptune and then have Saturn be like, okay, you're able to figure this out and make a good decision now. It's almost like people are making decisions and then going through a tailspin, you know?
Right. Yeah.
But that's also like part of Saturn's medicine, because it's experience. And I've been watching this as well, as this dynamic between like shame and avoiding shame, like avoiding making mistakes. Like failure feels so heavy right now, and it's like we don't need to feel shame for making a mistake, but we do need to feel responsibility for learning the lesson and then making the most out of it. And this is a month, I think, that there's so much about experiencing. And yeah, that's Saturn deals with life, like just the reality of things. And I think we're all kind of being asked to like handle reality differently. Like we're going to go through setbacks, or we're going to have unexpected, you know, wins of things, whether it's gain or loss. And it's kind of like holding the paradox. And yeah, and I feel like it's also like facing reality, like what is real. And right now, like all the Mercury, Virgo is ruled by Mercury. So it's all kind of mercurial in that way. And I'm watching a lot of like deception in the mind and busy minds. And like, it's like these loops that you can get caught on that can just take you into that Neptunian, like far away land. And so finding something very practical to keep you steady, to keep you grounded, like to keep you anchored, I guess, while the Jupiter Neptune is like this crazy hurricane sea storm, you know?
Yeah, we just went there. We went on the journey.
What do you both feel about that? Because I was talking to Craig and I said, you know, it's a big deal, but we just had the Amazon thing and then this, and then I feel like there's something bigger coming, not like maybe natural disaster, but like some sort of story. Because I feel like, I don't want to say I'm numb to the stories, but it's almost like they're so big that it's like there's something bigger coming than this. Like, you know, here we all are in Huntington Beach, so we know how the waves come, right? And it's like, oh, that looks like the big wave. And it's like, oh, wait, no, that one is. You can start to really, when a set rolls in, and I almost feel like,
well, there's
the hurricane's a big deal.
Right.
And I don't want to ever take that away, but I almost feel like there's something bigger coming. But I don't think it's natural disaster. I think it's a more human, you know, story that shocks, or really is going to be the Jupiter-Neptune square. Like,
I think it's the alien thing. I mean, I've really felt a lot of just like activation around that whole history that we have, and you know, our potential. It's obviously in most people's minds a theory, but I just felt a lot of activation in my own field around maybe some kind of disclosure coming through soon, or just another event that's like kind of like, what? Okay, we can't deny this. I mean, there is all that hullabaloo about Area 51 and how all those people are going to storm it. Did that happen yet? Did that pass?
I think some people on YouTube tried.
I think it's September 8th that they all were, 8th or 9th, that they were all planning to do it. So maybe there's going to be a coincidental like event around that time regarding the fact that, you know, we're not alone. We're not even on this planet.
Yeah, I feel there's definitely some, and I think it's going to be like a set of waves. I don't think it'll be one thing either. I think it'll be like that and then something way from another direction too, like political, and then something, it's almost like this Neptune energy with how it played in the 1850s, 52 and 53 was majorly like political, like, you know, cartoons written on pamphlets and stuff, and like trying to shift people's opinions.
Propaganda.
Right? So it's the extreme most propaganda alignment you could have in astrology. So there's definitely something trying to shift everybody in one direction. And we have the moon occulting Pluto, Saturn, and the South Node this weekend. There's definitely something coming. And I just feel like everybody should really take the information and really not buy it right away. And like really kind of like, it's almost like it's in an Amazon box. Like, open the box and like make sure you got the right thing before you're holding the box and like, I got what I want. They might have given you the wrong thing in there, you know? You don't know.
I feel like that's true also for people individually. Like, I think I could see that collectively and also individually right now. Just like not like if there's something coming in that's confirming something in your reality that is separating by nature, or that is conflictual by nature, or fear-based in any way. It's not that it's not true, but I would say, you know, make sure you're double checking with a different source. So like have that, like Amazon boxes, like before they're just sent, there's somebody who like checks the box, right? Or like, I mean, and then there's like a delivery guy. So there's like a bunch of having more than one set of hands on things, I think feels like that community vibe. Like we can use community to really make sure that we are in reality. And like with a clear hat on or a clear head on. Yeah. And I think the like next thing that could happen, regardless how we use these last few things that are happening to inform us. And again, the same thing, it's an experience. Like what are we learning from it and what are we gaining from it? And hopefully it doesn't matter what it is, like we'll be prepared if we're actually using the Saturn medicine of like dealing with what's happening now and not just bypassing it. I could see this whole alignment also being like if you've been bypassing things, and this Jupiter-Neptune square, because this is going to be the third one this month, third and final. It's like this is like the ultimate attempt to bypass, but also it doesn't feel like, I don't know. It'll be interesting to see if it works. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it is two parts. It's like a great deceptive like perception game test. And who is naive still too, like in their self, like even if it's not the outer story, it's the inner story stuff too. So it's both. It's this really weird paradoxal. There's a lot of belief system elements that are coming up. Yeah. That are going to be all like, is this in alignment with soul or, and really I think it's very hard to discern. It takes time, I think, after Neptune Jupiter square to kind of let it figure itself out, because it's two huge, wide macro energies that just reminds me of like the 1980s, like when they used to do like digital of like on the horizon, like, and you know, it's like, but like million, you know, or fractal geometry, if you've ever seen that, like just infinity, like all over. And it's like, but it all comes back to some source, I think, is the reminder. All streams lead to one sea. It's an old Christian ska band I listened to, Five Iron Frenzy, and that was always a line in a song I always thought about. That I think at the end of the day we'll realize that all streams are leading to one sea always, and to not get too caught up in one lane so much that you're like discrediting other lanes, and there's compassion that must be found with Neptune. And Jupiter doesn't want to find that compassion. It's almost like, no, I know better than you. And then Neptune plays the game with Jupiter, kind of like, oh, well, I'm going to project this and see if you will buy it or not. Mm-hmm. Are you really that smart? Do you really know it all? What if I actually projected something else on that's one thing about the alien thing. Have you ever heard about the concept of like them using projectors on our sky?
Yeah, I think it's called like Project Blue or something. Blue Wave, maybe?
That would totally look real. I mean, if you go now, you can go with 3D domes and it's insane. It looks more real than reality. But imagine them shooting up projections of things coming.
Right. Things that like play on stuff that's just deep down in our DNA. And just like there's like these really deep ancestral fears, and they can just harness that in one day. And what do people do when they're afraid? They give up their volition. They give up their power because they think, oh.
Well, Neptune and Jupiter and Neptune conjuncted in 84.
1984.
Yeah. So Orwell was very right. And this is the breaking point moment, I would say, of Orwell's fictional, but I wouldn't even call it a fiction. I would put it as more of a theory. I think he created a theory, like an actual theory of life itself through a story.
Yeah. And I think building on last week and how there's kind of this idea that these major natural disasters are actually things that bring us together as a global collective. They make us see that you can't divide yourself from other people or other nations anymore, because we're all being affected by all of this stuff. And I think what I've been seeing is like, I think we're also going to begin to see, especially with the spiritual community, and I mean, the spiritual community is growing. You know, there are more and more people all the time that are just, this stuff is making sense to them. I don't think a lot of people even know why. They're just like, it's clicking for them. They're seeing the merit, or they're just feeling it. And I feel like we're, as a collective, being drawn together through these common themes in order to like prepare us for understanding that we are not separate beings, that we all are unified. And I think there are huge implications for that if people on a mass level, like so-called ordinary people, begin to make these connections, that they're not just that person standing in that small town, but rather somebody that's connected to a web of cause and effect that is inextricably tied around the globe. I mean, I think there's almost like a 100th monkey kind of phenomenon happening where people are really waking up, maybe not to the same degree or detail of like spiritual belief, but at least waking up to like, everything I do matters. You know, every choice I make matters. And it's not even a matter of like ignoring that anymore. It's just like, duh, it's common sense. I can see it. I can smell it in the air. I can see it in the haze. I can feel it in my communities. And I think that is really sweeping through as well with those same aspects of like Jupiter and Neptune. It's like it's kind of forcing us into this kind of ordinary collective awakening. It's not like this big, flashy spiritual thing necessarily, but rather just like, whoa.
Can I ask you both this question then from the High Vibe, the Leo King astrology group? I'm not going to say the name of this person. And there's some cuss words in here, so I won't cuss them out. I will
Bleep it.
bleep it.
Because he never cusses.
Y'all, what the actual F is going on? The last 2 hours, overcome with such anxiety and burst into tears, have been bawling my eyes out, literally, cursing God and my so-called spirit guides, no joke. Seriously, I'm royally peed off at and at wit's end. Those of us who are actually doing the work are getting effed over left, right, front, and center, constantly taking a beating, and we're supposed to be grateful for the breadcrumbs we're receiving, while everyone else unconscious is out living and enjoying their lives. I feel like we're the biggest jokes and losers to have fallen for this effed up BS path. Let's just get real. Our lives are more effed up on it than we weren't. I've never felt so much defeat and despair in my life. I don't know a single, and that was cap locked out, person who is happy and single and all caps thriving on this path. Not one. What do you all feel about that one?
I have a lot of opinions.
I would love to.
So one is that it's a lot of resistance. Like I hear a lot of resistance, and I hear a lot of suffering because of that resistance. So first of all, I hear difficulty, I hear discomfort, I hear pain, I hear sounds like probably maybe some loss. And that sucks. Like that sucks. And that's part of life. And I feel like this again is like, how can we like sit with discomfort, with like the waves of emotion that you were talking about in the beginning of this show? It's like, it's impermanence. It's all impermanence. And that's actually what I was going to riff off of Dylan's last thing about the ordinariness, is the like seeing everybody who's unconscious just getting away with it and having so much fun. Like you can escape, you can bypass and you can escape. You can do that, but you can't do that forever, because this is the realm we live in. We live in this human realm, and there is mortality, and there is finite like amount of consequence. There's consequence. We live in Saturn's realm, like, and we're about to hit this collective Saturn-Pluto conjunction in January. And I think it's at a peak right now where it's calling the people forward who are like, you say you're on this like spiritual path, you say you're devoted to this vision, you say that you're in it. And I think we're at that crossroads where it's like, are you in or are you out? Because it's going to hit in January, but like, and yeah, and it's frustrating and it's defeating and it is tiring and exhausting. Like I can say that too. Like I've been hit with some waves that have just felt like come on. But the reward is not in some magical Amazon box that comes, or some crazy, escaping fantasy life. It's like the reward is in building this like integrity, like true person of a self, like a true self who is who they say they are, who like creates their own joy and thriving. Like there's a lot of that too, where it's like, let's redefine a lot of those words. Like they're all so old paradigm and so defeating in just the way we define them. Like thriving, I think the concept of thriving needs to change. Uranus and Taurus, it's like our value systems are changing. And I don't know, it's like, what makes you happy? What brings you joy? And you can't, like, that's spirituality. And this whole Jupiter-Neptune square, I think this final one, because I also, in astrology, the aspect of the square, the hope of it is that if you work it out like far enough, the next degree, the next aspect is going to be the trine. So it becomes a gift that it's a reward that you create yourself through the hard work of like dealing with the shit.
Which Jupiter's square Neptune is the ultimate belief in spirituality test as well.
Right. So the third one, like, wouldn't it be beautiful if it was like, we could actually make a trine out of, like, energetically, if we could clear that channel and actually show up for what's coming up right now. It's like, it's in our face. So I think she's right. Like, calling it all up, like, it's here. You named it, but like how you handle it is what matters.
It's always darkest before the dawn.
Yes.
And every belief system, including non-religious beliefs, non-spiritual beliefs, have a rite of passage always of you must believe, and it's right when you're ready to quit and you don't quit and you keep going, it works out.
But it has to be for something greater than yourself. If you're doing it, and I think that's what's happening too, is in the spiritual community, we're being faced with ourselves. So if you said you were doing this for a spiritual reason, but you're feeling really like you're drowning in all of this, nothing's working out, it's like, where are you not actually being honest with like your reality? Where are you not actually showing up? Where are you, in the ordinary ways? And
what is the definition of the way that it's supposed to look? Either a spiritual journey in life.
Right. Because when I hear this person saying that they've been doing the work, I want to ask, what kind of work have you been doing? And is it your work, or is it work that you've seen other people doing and you've just tried to apply that to your life and kind of do the one size fits all thing?
Yeah.
That's a recipe for frustration for sure. So I think that, yeah, I mean, when we're talking about this path, I think we need to really understand that this path is your path, my path, her path, his path. It's a collective community, perhaps, where we can share our experiences, but it has to be a very unique experience for you. It has to come from within you. That's the source of your truth. So if you're looking at something outside of yourself and trying to catch up with it or be its standard or match some standard of what you think doing the work looks like, you're not doing the work. You're putting on a different outfit and expecting that to change your life. So I think, yeah, we need to just dial it. I mean, when I work with human design, the whole system is like, honor your uniqueness. Take no outer authority as your own. You have an inner authority that is your source of truth. And guess what? It's not coming from your mind. And all of this stuff that we're trying to latch onto and fix onto us and say, like, slap onto us and be like, okay, good. I'm going to make it through the portal now. That's your mind. That's mental hearsay, conditioning, homogenized propaganda. If it's not coming from within, from your gut, your emotions, your heart, your higher self, your own voice, you can't trust it. And if you do, you're going to end up feeling like that. Yeah.
I love how you brought up the mind because, in the 20s when psychology was getting really big, there was the theory of like that the mind is always trying to match the external reality and then your internal reality, and it's always doing this. And the hippocampus in the brain is always, that's its job. And then if it's off, that's when it triggers emotional stuff. Like there's something off. The reality is not the way that I am looking at it. And as it evolved, they realized that it's not just that simple. There's a third thing, which is the perception. Like, it also is this, you have to change your perception of what not only the outer world is, but also the inner world. But I think you're right. This is all mental stuff because it's all external. It's all the definition and the understanding of what thriving is or, and so it's so much given out externally as well, spiritually and mentally, that is not even going to fill anything up, and you're going to feel drained and empty, and you're not going to feel fulfilled at all because it's an idea of what these things are instead of who even knows what spirituality is divine, I think, through each individual unique self, and I think the collective as all those unique individuals define what the collective of spirituality is itself. And I think that it's like what is thriving? I think it's great that you bring that up, Sarah, because it's like these are old ways of thinking about it. And I remember when I was homeless doing this work purely, that actually God brought me there. Usually God brings you to the worst place ever to really show you if you're doing the work. And it's when you're there and you're really doing the work and you don't even care anymore that you don't have a house, that you're getting enough money just to eat, that then something really builds beautifully. Like you're really like only about the work and only about that purely, and you're not attached anymore to how it should be and where you should be and where you should achieve. And I think a lot of this is this Saturn South Node. Like you said, it's like the integrity of soul with Neptune, not the integrity of this kind of delusional reality that's externalized and on the boob tube that's defined it, or now it's on our phones. What's the difference?
Yeah, and I love that you said the word attachment, because I do think right now, even in that, like in that person's post, it's like, what are you attached to in this? And like attaching comparison as well. Comparison is not going to be useful, like Dylan was saying. Like it's so individualized, this path and this moment, like this feels like this month and this moment. But yeah, attachment, like there's going to be some sort of grief, and that's a part of life, this grieving of letting go. And sometimes it's grieving our old selves because we're like growing into this new identity. And even though it's what we want, even though we're doing all these things, like there's still going to be that grief because there's still a loss. Like we're still not going to be filling those same roles, even though we're excited about that. Like there's still unconscious grief that processes. And so like being willing to feel your feelings, being willing to grieve, being willing to sit in the sadness and the wave of anger and all of that. That's, if you can do that, that's actually a really beautiful, like you said, it brings you to your knees, but it's humbling and opening, and just, that's what I feel like the potential of this moment is, as well as this month can be. So if we're willing to be humble, if we're willing to be humbled and like really
I think gratefulness too is a huge part, right? So
yeah.
I watched Jordan Peterson a lot, and that's where I heard this whole thing about the hippocampus, because he's a clinical psychologist and he's really big right now. And he was talking about relationships and how people, they don't say, you know, when everything's going good, nobody's really doing anything. So, you know, it's like nobody's like honoring, like, I'm really proud that you did this in the relationship. You know, like, I really appreciate that you did this, and because by building up these good things, we're actually knowing that we're in the good. Whereas like in today's society now, it's just like, it's working, so we're good. But when something goes wrong, now it's just only that's the attachment to. That's it. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. There's something wrong. Yep. And I was like blown away by that understanding, or that perspective, because it was like, if you're not in a place of gratefulness about every moment, truly, like, I was so grateful with us doing just the little promo on Instagram and the noises that Dylan makes, and just us having fun, and that you put that extra little bit, and like just appreciation of the joy that's in these moments that are in between what we in our mind think are bigger moments, like let's say doing this show, but really there is nothing different between all of it.
Because that's what frames that inner perception.
Yeah.
That's what changes how you relate to the phenomenon that are going on in your life. I mean, gratitude, acceptance, you know, not clinging to the highs and running from the lows. We need to get good at this. You know, the waves of our emotions are only going to get more intense as we move towards 2027, because we're collectively being cleaned out so that we can welcome in something much better. Something that we've been waiting for as a species for hundreds of thousands of years. This is the time in which we're going to actually get to claim our true sovereignty outright. And guess what? We're the ones laying the framework through that, through our actions, through our bodies, through our process. And no, it's not pretty, because we're digging, you know, I don't want to say digging, but we're creating space, more space than ever before. And there's just a lot of ego attachment to what is already there, and it's got to go. So, you know, maybe this person's freak out, like really going into these feelings that he or she is having, might be the most spiritual thing that they've done, you know, like since they started on this path, you know, just.
But also like being honest and being fully transparent. I think like just saying that, I mean, the fact that we're having this conversation, I think it's good that it's brought up. It's just a matter of not making sure that you're not positioning yourself in a victim mindset, or in a position where there's like these two separate, you know, conscious, unconscious people, and one people are doing it, one people aren't. And we're here, and like, if that needs to not be there. But if you're not doing that, it's okay to say what you feel. It's okay to call let the cards lay, like let's put them on the table, but not at somebody else or against somebody else.
Right.
Or against groups or anything
yeah.
Right now. I think anything, if you try to go against anything, it's definitely not. That's the toxicity aspect, I feel. And that's going against people or even yourself, your own health, the world, the environment, everything. And I think there's a huge force that you have to deal with. And that's, I think, a lot of the Saturn element that's about to turn on with Pluto. And they really don't have emotion to, they're executioners. Like, they execute. They don't, it's hard because, you know, the North Node is in Cancer, and this energy of like more lunar and moon and support is not usually felt through Capricorn as much, as far as safety or comfort, right? But actually there is also safety and comfort in Capricorn when you are in your integrity and you're doing the proper things.
Right.
They both offer the same thing. Every sign's duality is offering the same freaking thing, just the different shade. So there's a lot of safety and comfort in Capricorn. When you stay committed to a path of integrity, and with the South Node, I think there is like this new kind of integrity and stay on that path, even though it's like, I'm going a direction nobody's kind of going. Maybe that is good. Mm-hmm. But anybody who's changed the world or who's innovated life or done great things to the planet had to do that for a while. It wasn't like, this is easy, welcome, I'm showing up to get my hamburger at McDonald's and that's all I have to do is just give you this and that. Okay, done.
Right. Yeah, that reminds me of when we were kind of talking earlier, how I was getting like this image of trenches and like, you know, like the deep trenches they used to stand in the wars, but I was like in our minds. And there's these like really deep, like just gnarly trenches in our minds that people are standing in and they want to get out of. But they're complaining about where they are. And I feel like with this Saturn Pluto energy coming in, it's going to be like, we're going to be getting new trenches built, right? And right now, in order to get out of that trench so that you can start the work of digging the new trench, because you don't just have a trench just like magically appear. Like you didn't just end up in this trench and this mental groove overnight. Like however old you are and however long it's been going on, however long that loop's been going. So like acknowledge it, stop digging the one you're in, and like use your own will to live, will to be free, will to be happy, like will to be in any other state, to find relief, to at least slow that momentum and get support, get out and start finding a new trench, start digging a new groove.
Yeah, and I think Dylan brought up a good point to go to this is a big gate that's been of ego. We've seen a lot of this Mars here with the sun, with all this Venus, like right?
Yeah.
And there's something about the toxicity element that you bring up, Dylan, of like the toxicity can really cause anger, I think, right now. Mm-hmm. And without clearing yourself and clearing a lot of these trenches that Sarah just brought up, I feel that the toxicity creates toxicity element really powerfully spiritually right now. Frustration.
As above, so below.
You know?
Yeah, and if you're acidic, like literally you could be in an alkaline state and then just eat a bunch of acid forming foods, and those are going to translate to more angry, divisive thoughts. I've witnessed it in myself, you know. I can go from like total equanimity, and then I'm like caffeine and sugar, and then I'm like, I don't like that person for whatever reason. Like, no, they're not doing it right. And I'm like, when did that happen? I'm like, oh, it's such a, you know, I think another part of spiritual awakening is realizing how deeply interconnected the layers of our being are. We have so much in us that's just a feedback loop. And it's not just the thoughts and the emotions. It's literally like the gross elements that we're putting into our physical form that affect the quality of our consciousness. And that's becoming super clear too, I think. Most, like, really obviously when people are lashing out because they're in a really toxic state. But I think that's also still just bringing awareness to, like, you know, doing the work is not just, you know, watching deep astrology every week. That's not doing the work. It's a great supplement, but you know, we've got to be facing ourselves on every level right now, because that's the times we're in, especially this month.
With great reward.
Yeah.
I would like to say that, like, with great promise, if we do.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I like this duality state of the acidic and the alkaline, because I almost feel like we've all been through the loop of, like, we're being thrown from this team of acidic to alkaline every day, or maybe sometimes a week, or sometimes once a month. But like, it's almost like we've been, nobody's perfect at this. There's nobody who's stayed on this one track of good, or whether we call that good or whether we call that bad. I think it's like we've all been like, and we'll use politics for example. I think everybody has bounced between going and being a Republican to a Democrat in their own perception, like at moments. Like there's like, oh wait, no, they're doing this wrong. Like I'm going over here. No, wait, no, they're doing that wrong. So there's this. Everybody's kind of jumping back and forth, trying to figure it all out, and like, and kind of like being like, wait, I gotta get out of that loop for a second. Maybe I don't need to be even part of these like divisive forces right now in life, or what is thriving and what is not thriving, or what is this belief or opinion or perception, and that one, and kind of back out a little bit, and kind of
like Mars.
Yeah.
Like Mars, like backing out a little bit, or like not backing out, but like letting, everything else kind of take the lead.
I was saying today that Mars and the sun, as sun moves away from Mars, that Mars is kind of like still chasing the king as it leaves the war room. Like, yes, sir. So I'll do that for you. And the sun's kind of like, all right, yeah, I told you what to do. Like, go do it. Like, get off my back. Like, I just want to go pee and like or whatever. Like, I got shit to do and I got a big thing coming up here.
Yeah.
It's like Mars is still trying to be on the back of the sun, Like,
yeah.
And it's like, and it also is scary because the sun squares Jupiter this weekend.
I think that's
Mars,
like overconfidence.
Like,
yeah. But I was gonna say with what you were saying with like even the politics right now, what came to me very clearly when you were saying that is needing to have a much clearer, bigger picture in mind. So seeing even beyond like not the politician that I want to vote for and their action, but the world I want to create. So the actual like bigger environmental change, energetic, political, whatever it is, and really getting clear on that and then letting that inform your ordinary reality, moment to moment decision, not watching the news or watching, Instagram or social media or whatever and getting this like these feedback that's in between the two, but not actually giving us any true help in the moment.
Jordan Peterson's a 5-1 manifestor.
Oh, wow. But I was just saying, as you said that to Dylan, like your manifestor just blew the doors out right there.
Yeah.
But that's what I think it is that people, I think, have to be the change one. Like it's not this external source again. Mm-hmm. And I put up an interesting post about a lot of this Pluto-Saturn and the occulting with the moon and a lot of the weird kind of behind the scenes things going on that are clear for those that know how to see behind the veil really well right now in politics and stuff. And a lot of people were like, I can't believe like you would put this up about this and that. And I'm just like, you're buying the illusion. Like this is all a story that's a movie and they're playing their parts perfectly. And I feel that because you just brought that up, people have to like listen to manifestors out there that are helping present a whole new way, like a whole new direction. And there are plenty of souls out there that have to step up and kind of like realize this change is not external by some one individual at all, or even a little group of people that have control, which is very Pluto-Saturn. Like, oh, it'll all be changed because these people have control of it now, and they'll take care of the ship great.
Right.
Like, okay, the last person was eating fast food at the wheel, so we got sloppy, and it was a bumpy ride, and we almost fell off Star Tours, the ride. Now we're just going to trust that these people will do good because they're cooking instead in the middle of driving. You know what I mean? Like, I know it's a funny analogy and stupid, but
those are usually the best ones.
That's how dumb it really is. That what's the difference? There's no difference. It's just your idea and your perception that you have bought now of this. This is better than that one, and that's where I'm going. And it's like, but nothing actually did change except that both are not driving the ship at all.
How about how perfect it is too on a symbolic repetition level of, we just talked about that with like politics but then also in our mind and what we talked about earlier and how it's like, there's what's happening in here, then there's the lens, and then there's the reality.
Yeah.
And then there's the reality in which you say you have faith in or want to create. So like going all the way to that reality, the clarity you have there, and then all the way back to your choice in this moment. And being like, there's might be some weird shit in between those things, like a perception or a projection or whatever, but like what's guiding you? you have something that's clear out here. Like that's your anchor. It's not down here. It's out here. It's like far in the future and you're anchored to it. That's intentional living. That's power. That's change. That's thriving. Like,
well,
yeah.
Before we go here, I want to get into this Jupiter Sun square because the Sun trine Saturn before that, like literally, it's like a bang, boom. There's so opposite energies. This is the first time we're really going to feel it this intense. And it's both are in their dignity, and both are the two biggest planets and the Sun. So here comes the big three again, but the Sun's not exalted here at all. So this is like a very weird time because this is definitely like Saturn's like restrictive element and proper, and Jupiter's like let's throw a party, like let's forget the rules, like let's go to a crazy place and see what's there, what's behind. You know, it's kind of like being at a party with the guy. I always call him Uncle Jupe. I coined that, by the way. A lot of people have stole that one lately. But Uncle Jupe in the backyard, like, hey, what's behind your mom's back? You know, what's back here? Like, you know, like the little adventure of like seeking. And with Neptune there, a little deceivious too. Right? Because that means the Sun is opposing Neptune in this T square to Jupiter. I feel that this is definitely a very weird look around things, but Saturn reminding, like, you know the rules, like, you know like I gave you them before you walked into the funhouse, and the funhouse sometimes doesn't end up good. Like Bozo the Clown shows up, and it's eerie sometimes when you get. And I was gonna say, last thing before I get your opinion is that there's always usually panic in major mutable T squares with people, like mental panic.
That's happening for sure.
And I feel that this can go really high because we're going to have Venus right tomorrow and Thursday, and then Mercury, while the Sun and the Moon are squaring over this, and then we have the weekend with the Sun square Jupiter and opposed Neptune. So it's the whole week of everything in this.
It's nonstop.
And then Mars next week, and then a full moon with Sun Mars and opposed, and we'll go into that later, but I want to see what you guys feel about.
First of all, I have had to look at this astrology like that I've written down for this week at least 10 times tonight because I can't hold it in my mind because there's so much and they're all just like taking turns. And so I just looked, and the day that the Sun squares Jupiter, I think it's beautiful. I think it's poetic. It's just synchronistic to everything we're talking about. That the same day Mercury is trining Pluto, so there's that like deep perception, that like penetrating perception, being able to see through the bullshit. And then Mars is trining Saturn, the last one of like the tail end of the group, and our will is trining Saturn. So the option to maybe transcend your like the pressure of an ego-driven Sun square Jupiter, the ego that wants it all and really has that like hunger to just go big, get it all, like fast result. There's an open portal to like transcend and purify and go so much farther for so much longer by like actually restraint. By restraint. Yeah.
I agree.
That's my take.
That's a lot of astrology for me because I'm not an astrologer anymore. So
yeah, it's a lot. Yeah.
I just feel like I want to challenge people to maybe see any kind of internal uprising that feels really difficult and really painful and really like kind of confining and like just like a pressure cooker. Maybe be willing to see that as more of a collective feeling that's sweeping through rather than your own, even though it's going to be dressed up as your experience and there's going to be reasons why it's affecting you this way and that it's their fault or it's your fault or whatever. I challenge you to question that and to see that, and with the awareness of this conversation that you're partaking in right now, like see these big waves that are coming through. Oh, that's just the collective thing right now. I don't need to freaking flip out and identify with this feeling or this uncertainty to the extent that I have to create a story about it as to why something's not going the way I believe it should. Just see it as like, oh, it's a week where we're having huge collective just unrest. And the more that we can have space and awareness within ourselves to see that, you know, you can transform and transmute that energy, and then you are doing the work. So that's what I think.
I think that's a good way to put it. I also think that we don't fully know everything at all. So I think that this is a point to where, and I use the term set tonight, like everything is not set yet. Like the whole table's not set, and you can overblow this to like say you're set without, there's still a lot of adjustments still that is going to come. And I use the analogy, well, it's not even an analogy, but the truth of where do we get set? We get set from Egypt, and he ruled the underworld. And I was thinking outside, like the sun sets because the sun goes into Set's underworld, right? And of course, that when you think of the word set, like this is set in place. Hell is the one place that is set always, is like the one place, or the underworld is set, is like, you know what you're going to get. It's like pretty clear, like fire and brimstone or this and this. But heaven is not set. There's like this infinity wave of possibility and who knows and
Higher and higher to go.
Higher and higher and higher and higher. So there's something about if you start saying like, especially with the Jupiter aspect, like you believe now that you have figured out everything and you have just become the ultimate superpower of knowing this is set and this is it and I am all set. This is the gung ho, like Neptune's gonna just like
Rug pull.
literally, like, and that's scary. I also told people to advise them this weekend to really pay attention to what they're doing. Like, be very like cautious, because that Mercury, Pluto, and there's a Venus Pluto before that, but I think the moon is in Capricorn doing that square. And so people with Mars trine Saturn too can almost like, and with Mars squaring Jupiter, because there's so much going on. I think you're right. It's like this over willpower to push something too hard, you know? And I think that it's like a time to just be flexible, like stay discerning and keep some sort of middle, like, or just like train tracks that they could be like, you know, or not even train tracks. It's like Toontown at Disneyland. Like, you know, like it's a little bit like, what was that ride always there? The from Toontown, the one where you go in the cars, it's all crazy. From Roger Rabbit. Never went to Disneyland? To Toontown?
I've only been in Disney World.
I can't remember.
And you live right by Disneyland?
Well, I just lived here like 2 years ago. So
Wow.
fresh.
We need to do a Disneyland trip and do an After Dark live.
Yes.
Yes.
Oh my God, yes.
For real. Well,
Craig, will you take us, Mom?
I think Dylan said something that I really was picking up on about these big waves coming in. That, do you really want to take this big wave? Like as a surfer, or even if you're out there swimming in the ocean, there's something about big waves where sometimes it's too big, and it's okay to duck under the wave and let it just pass because you will be destroyed in the wave. Like, it will be too big. Like, there are some waves that it's like your ego, oh yeah, there's other people around, I want to show off and da-da-da. No, like when I jet ski at Huntington, which you guys have seen me do, like sometimes I'm like, no, I'm not going to hit that one. I'm going to kind of go around it. I might lose like 2 seconds of time, but what's the point in me battling myself and jumping that wave and when I can just go like around this one for a second? Like,
Yes.
no point in taking such major, huge waves that if it doesn't feel right to you and in you, and if you're using this kind of like, I don't know, I think Jupiter and Sag can be very pompous. Like very like, I know it all and I want to prove, right? And Neptune can make that a delusion. Like, oh yeah, let's see. I want to see what you look like when you're all pompous and you believe so much in this kind of like twisted thing.
But
there's a
no
lot of
one's-
weird he's going on.
Yes, and I think you can't escape this, like the rug being pulled out, and that's why I think humility is such a good gift right now. Be humble, be gracious, be grateful, because I think it's going to be like, yeah, I don't know.
I think there's going to be a lot of karmic shit too.
Yeah, like I think it's all going to like just be on your best behavior right now. Like not just like your best show behavior, not just like to get the best, like be first and push past this wave. Like be smart, like be methodical. Be like look ahead. Think longer. Take a pause. Use the opposition from Neptune to meditate twice in a day instead of once.
There's time ahead if
Yeah.
it really is meant to be that wave to ride. Another wave will come. That big. If that's how big you want it again.
It doesn't need to be big. It needs to be
or whatever,
a big but the show doesn't need to be big, but the like long-term commitment needs to be big. Like you need, yeah.
Okay, we're in Virgo. We're not in the season of bravado.
Thank you.
Be like Beyonce. You know, she works secretly and meticulously behind the scenes for a long time, and then at the end pops out, she's a Virgo, pops out with something incredible, you know? And she gets her time in the spotlight, and she gets to prove and be, you know, that big presence that's really satisfying and performative. But it's not the month, we're not starting the month as Beyonce. We're maybe finishing the month as Beyonce.
Yes.
But we've got to like do the training and go to dance rehearsal every day and do the shitty, sweaty, you know, repetitive, meticulous, unpleasant, going through the detox symptoms kind of work. And, you know, not even thinking about that like kind of the show and the public side of things. I think it's really internal, non-attached, and maybe a little like not as involved right now. Like this is a great time for that really focused inner work. And there's just so much potential drama like swirling around in the world with these transits. I think it's a great time to just, like you said, like step back a bit and, you know, do your work in silence and let success be your noise.
I like that you brought that up. I want to close with this and see your both opinions. Like I feel it's almost like, because I love that analogy of doing this work and the routines and for the dance or whatever. Jupiter and Neptune definitely have like this huge, like, I'm missing out on something great right now. Why am I here? And I think this goes to the question that, or the statement that person had said about spirituality too. Like, why am I doing this work? When look at the unconscious out there, they're having a blast. But if you were to like look across the street, like I imagine being in New York for some reason in a dance academy and looking out the window and look at, they're having such a great time down there. And then, so you leave and you go all the way down and you're at Dunkin' Donuts. It's a very New York thing in every corner. And you go in there and it looks like this person's like laughing or whatever, but really they're crying and they're hysterical and they like, you know what I mean? Like they're having like the biggest thing and they're like, you don't have any coffee. Like, you know what I mean? Like, but it looks like they're having the time of their life. And you get there and you're like, oh my God, like what was I thinking? It's like quitting the team when you're about to do the most amazing thing. Like, you know, like not, and people, I don't know why I got this from my guides, because I do live in LA and I do live in Marina, and it's crazy because I live right on the water where all the boats roll up and there's yachts, and it's like 30 Instagram girls get on this thing with like 2 guys always, and then they go take them and take all their pictures and like have this great party, and they're so drunk they barely even make it back on the docks. It's crazy. I see it every weekend when I'm there. Barely there, but when I'm there. And I think there's this part of us looking out the window and going, am I really missing out as I'm doing this work? Should I go on that thing?
Right.
Mm-hmm.
No. This boat might not even come back in.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It might not even come back in. Like maybe it's come back in the last 4 times you've seen it, but this one might not come back in. Like this time you saw the driver barely make it off the docks. Do you really think this time he might even make it back with the boat? Last final thoughts?
I mean, I think that was like a super mic drop moment. because I think that's super true right now. Yeah, like I think stay conscious. If you have the ability to stay conscious right now, stay conscious and stay mindful. Stay in the driver's seat. Stay steady. Stay in moderation. Stay grounded. And remain connected. I'm missing so much. And remain open to the idea that you have no idea what's actually going to happen in the end of all of this, but that it will be for the highest good of everybody. And right now, there might be some like labor pains. There might be some discomfort. There might be some unexpected twists and turns and changes that you cannot control. So don't try to control them. Don't try to control other people. Don't engage in dramas that are right here. Like look beyond them and really just stay humble as you, it's like quiet, like this quiet, growing quiet confidence. Like it's going to come. Like everybody's, I don't know, I think it's all going to come, and Saturn's going to come direct. Mars is going to trine Pluto. All systems are freaking going to be go, but it's not there right now. And don't over process it by talking it out or overthinking. Like get out of your mind and get quiet and listen to all of this stuff we've said tonight. This has been a great show. Like I'm like, I need to rewatch the show because we've all said really helpful, supportive things. But they're like Dylan said, they're like supplements. They aren't, the nutrition, I guess. Yeah.
Oh. Let's see, guys. I feel like you, I'm just seeing what comes out here, are going to really find the peace inside you that you need to find right now. And in that peace, you're going to be able to receive the new blueprints for the new you. But it's going to come piece by piece, trickle by trickle. And if you are jostling and you are bucking around and you are pointing fingers or just being in general kind of chaotic, you're not going to get that clear, perfect, like it's like Tetris. You got to let all the bricks fall in their nice little order. If you shift things around or you get too nervous, you get too identified with your mind's uncertainty and fear patterns, you're going to screw up the game. This is your month to rebirth yourself. But just like a seed or a baby, you've got to create those ideal conditions for birth. And that takes a lot of continuous balancing, continuous rebalancing, continuous just nourishing. And get out of the trance of reading the comments of blame and victim mentality. Check yourself. Am what I am about to say or do coming from a place that something outside of me is responsible for my state? Ask yourself that question if you can. That's part of staying conscious, as Sarah is saying, is inquiry into what are your motivations today? And are you getting up every day realizing that this is the next piece of your new self, or just another day that is like an inconvenience and is annoying and is not going the way you want? You've got to have that mindset this month that it may not be a bright and thrilling, positive month, but it is a month where if you wake up every day and put yourself in that receptive state of clarity and progress, that's what you'll get. Clarity and progress. That's what you want. That's what we all want. So just keep showing up for it. And everything else is not worth your time. It's not your job to do that either. So give yourself permission to let go of all that other stuff. Love you.
I love that. I want to close with tapping into that same energy of, I believe people are going to screw up this week, and we're going to have to learn to forgive deeply ourselves. That's part of receiving this new blueprint. I think that this energy of Jupiter and Neptune is so big and so intense that the best way to like use my old analogy of the Instagram boat, okay, now you chose not to go on it. The distractions are high. Now the door knocks. There's something new. Then it's like not stop. It's like there's going to be a lot that you're going to learn the lesson, and you can't be so down on yourself from learning it. That's what Saturn and Jupiter both are teaching in their home signs. There's a high from it and there's definitely a low, but they both are, you know, the high is actually kind of probably where you're going to learn the negative lesson, and the low is where you're going to learn the more positive, which is kind of an odd way. And I think that this is definitely where you're going to have to learn to forgive yourself, because I don't think we're going to be able to be perfect through this one in Virgo that we're trying to be. Like it's scattered about. And I think that there's perfection, of course, and imperfection. But I think that if we can't forgive ourselves, if we can't learn to forgive others too, and if we can't allow ourselves to receive this new blueprint by maybe realizing that it's okay that we didn't screw up, but we are turning a different direction now, instead of it being a massive cataclysmic failure of self, which can damage our and trauma our soul and create more karma that we don't want to replay again in our lives. I think it's the lesson of learning, I learned this, I'm going to make it right in whatever way that I can that's positive, and learn from this and take the new blueprint in the right direction to go. And I think that that's a important thing through this time, because I think that the drama is by almost enjoying messing up and owning that failure and becoming the victim from that aspect deeply. And then there's that other part of almost like a pompous, like, look at, I got it all going on and I figured it all out, you know, and that one's
Cruising for a bruising.
That one's I think gonna be more tough.
Check yourself before you wreck yourself.
So make sure you all check out highvibe.tv too, and check out these two. We got the links for their Instagrams down below. And if you want to get a session with them or work with them, and their schools are also on highvibe.tv. And check out all my exclusive content. It helps keep this all alive. You go to highvibe.tv. We just got the app on Roku out, and we're on iOS. We are on iPad. We are on Android, and we are also on Apple TV. And we are about to be on Amazon Fire any minute. Literally, we just got that email.
Fire.
So I love you all. I love you both. Dylan is going to Peru. So
No.
Sarah's been pretty upset. I mean, I've been upset, but Sarah's been really upset.
I'll be gone all September doing everything we just talked about today in my own personal process. But I'll be back in October, and who knows what that'll be like.
I already told Dylan, I was like, for me, I'm sending part of my energy with you while you're there to send me some message back.
Well, I'm going to be going up to Machu Picchu, and my plan is that once I'm up there, I'm kind of building this list of people that I'm just going to include in this giant, massive transmission of healing and prayer when I'm up there. And you will all feel it. All of you will feel it. So, yeah.
Now we're going to miss you even more.
I know.
Okay, guys.
Okay. Love you.
Thank you all, and we'll see you all. And please share this video, get it out, and definitely get those two out. They're amazing.
Oh.
Thanks,
And
David.
I'm not that big a deal, so it doesn't matter about me. It's about these two.
We're only here. This is fun.
I love you all very much. We all love you, and love to you all.
Peace.
Bye.
Happy birthday, Beyonce.
Is it her birthday today?
Tomorrow.
Yay, Beyonce.
It's my brother's birthday today. Happy birthday, Lau.
Mm.